Hello and Happy New Year. Welcome to Weekly News Highlights. I'm Kim Dami in Seoul. Let's recap the week with the keywords that made headlines. 179 people died in South Korea's worst passenger plane crash last weekend. The entire nation mourned the victims under the 7-day national mourning period, while the exact cause of the crash has yet to be discovered. The government expects Korea's economy to expand by 1.8% in the new year. And due to the slower than expected rate, 75% of this year's total fiscal budget will be utilized in the first half of the year. We are now well into 2025, the year of the blue snake. It's going to be another year full of K-content and K-culture.
The first ever attempt to detain a sitting president was halted after a 5-hour standoff between investigators and the Presidential Security Service that included some physical confrontations. On Friday at 8 a.m., staff from the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials attempted to execute the arrest warrant at the presidential residence. However, they called off the attempt after 5 hours as they found it impossible to carry out the arrest due to the Presidential Security Service's refusal to comply with their requests, and there were concerns over the safety of the investigators on the scene. The CIO, on leaving the site, issued a statement saying, "We express serious regret over the behavior of the suspect who refused to comply with legally set procedures." According to police who supported the warrant execution process, the Presidential Security Service, citing the Presidential Security Act, wouldn't allow further access into the residential area around 200 meters from the house. The CIO also told reporters that there were around 200 PSS agents and military personnel that created a human wall, while there were only 20 CIO agents and 80 police officers to execute the secondary search warrant. With the failed first attempt, the joint investigation team made up of CIO staff and police said they have opened a case against PSS chief Park Jong-jun for possible obstruction of the performance of official duties and summoned him for questioning on Saturday. Meanwhile, the legal team of President Yoon repeated that the warrant was illegally issued and thus was not valid. It added that the CIO, which does not have the authority to investigate insurrection charges utilizing police officers to gain access into a security zone, was illegal. The warrant is valid until next Monday, and more attempts to detain President Yoon could be made. For now, the CIO is yet to reveal what its next move will be in attempting to execute the warrant. 김도현, Arirang News.
South Korea's deadliest plane crash at Muan International Airport last Sunday killed all the passengers on board the aircraft, and all but 2 Jeju Air crew members. While all the victims have been identified, investigations into the exact cause of the incident are still ongoing. We have our correspondent Park Kwon-woo joining me in the studio to tell us more. Welcome, Kwon-woo.
Thanks for having me.
So, Kwon-woo, first of all, walk us through what exactly happened.
Yes, the Jeju Air flight that departed from Bangkok on Sunday was scheduled to land at Muan International Airport the same day. It crashed while landing, becoming the deadliest plane crash in South Korea's aviation history. The accident claimed the lives of 179 people out of the 181 on board, with only 2 flight attendants surviving. All the victims were Koreans except for 2 Thai nationals. Most of them were from Gwangju and Jeollanam-do province. Many of the victims are believed to have been returning from trips to Bangkok during the Christmas holidays. As for the sequence of events leading to the accident, the flight crew received a bird strike hazard warning from the airport's control tower during its first landing attempt. Shortly after, the pilot sent a mayday call and initiated a go-around instead of landing. After making a 180-degree turn, the aircraft entered the runway from the opposite end without its landing gear lowered. Instead of landing at the beginning of the runway, the aircraft made contact further along the runway at high speed, using the gear up or belly landing method. Then the aircraft skidded along the runway, collided with the concrete wall, and exploded into flames.
Kanu, all of the victims have been identified. That means funeral services also took place, right?
That is true. All of the 179 passengers were identified as of Wednesday morning. The first funeral for one of the victims began in Gwangju on Tuesday. As of Thursday, at least 34 bodies were returned to their families for funerals, with additional victims expected to return in the coming days. Bereaved families have the option of either receiving the bodies at funeral homes or leaving them at temporary morgues while they wait for the joint funerals to take place. Also on Thursday, personal belongings began being returned to the families of victims, with around 200 items being returned.
And it wasn't just the bereaved families. The entire nation mourned the victims. In fact, the national mourning period was also issued. Tell us more.
So there are around 100 memorial altars across the country, including the one in Gwangju City, where the majority of the passengers who lost their lives in the airplane crash were from. A joint memorial altar was set up at the Muan International Airport on Tuesday, following requests from bereaved families. Over 200,000 mourners across all age groups headed to joint memorial altars, while at least 20,000 went to memorial altars at the Muan Sports Complex as of Friday. All of the memorial altars remained open until Saturday, the last day of the national mourning period. Here's what some of the mourners in Muan had to say.
I couldn't sleep at all yesterday because I was so sad. That's why I came here from the very early morning. I canceled all my year-end and New Year's gatherings to welcome the new year calmly.
We were so heartbroken. My daughter even came from New Zealand.
My heart aches so much when I think of the bereaved families, so I came here with my fellow believers. Right now, I think the most important thing is to simply be together and cry together.
Along with the people mourning at the site, some even donated food and money to support the bereaved families. Year-end and New Year's events were canceled or scaled down. For example, the annual Boshingak Pavilion's New Year's Eve bell ringing ceremony took place at a smaller scale with all related performances canceled. Several local festivals and music concerts have also been postponed.
And all eyes are on what contributed to the deadly crash. I heard it could take up to months.
That is true, Tammy. As you just mentioned, while some theories remain about the actual cause of both the crash and the high death toll, including a bird strike and the concrete wall positioned toward the end of the runway, the Transport Ministry said it had completed the conversion of the cockpit voice recorder's data into an audio file on Thursday morning. The audio file, which is around 2 hours long, is expected to include conversations between crew members, communication with the control tower, cockpit warning alerts, and clues for investigators. However, the flight data recorder damaged in the crash will be analyzed by the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board soon, but it's unclear how long this process will take.
And I'm sure bereaved families need support more than ever, psychological, financial. How is the government helping them?
First of all, the Transport Ministry has been conducting a special inspection of all Boeing 737-800 aircraft, the same model as the one that crashed in service in South Korea since Monday. It also announced plans to investigate aviation safety facilities, including localizers at all domestic airports by next week. Acting President Choi Sang-mok also pledged maximum support for the bereaved families on Thursday, while instructing related organizations to assist them as well.
Related organizations should ensure that the bereaved families don't face difficulties during funeral procedures. The government will continue to fully support the bereaved families even after such procedures are over.
He also said legal action will be taken to protect the honor of the victims and their families due to posts on social media. Meanwhile, the government also plans to offer emergency living expenses, delay or reduce tax payments, and provide psychological counseling to the affected families.
All right, Kanu, thank you for all the updates. We appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
The government unveiled its economic policy direction for 2025, forecasting growth of 1.8% this year. The government plans to make sure growth remains on track amid uncertainties stemming from both at home and abroad. Let's turn to our correspondent Lee Soo-jin for details.
Stabilizing the economy amid external and internal uncertainties. This is the overarching theme of the government's economic policy plans for this year. With South Korea currently going through a turbulent political period domestically, it comes as no surprise that the government is anticipating that people's livelihoods will continue facing difficulties as downside risks to the economy grow. And external risks that the government is monitoring include the implementation of tariffs that may target South Korea's exports with the inauguration of U.S. President Donald Trump. While domestic demand, which the state-run Korea Development Bank think tank has assessed as weak for more than a year, is expected to see improvement, export growth is expected to slow. With this assessment, the government is projecting the economy to grow only 1.8% in 2025 compared to 2.1% growth in 2024. As such, its policies are focused on 4 key areas: revitalizing people's livelihoods, managing external credibility, responding to trade uncertainties, and strengthening industrial competitiveness.
The growth rate is expected to decline to around 1.8%, exacerbating challenges for livelihoods and raising concerns about external creditworthiness. As such, the government has drafted the 2025 economic policy plan with the goal of stabilizing the economy.
To improve livelihoods, the government will allocate 70% of 85 trillion won, or nearly $60 billion, and the largest ever amount allocated in the first half of the year, to fund various projects that include helping young adults who are seeking employment and lowering grocery prices. The government is also focusing on maintaining external credibility by providing more than $130 million in cash subsidies in the first half of the year to encourage foreign investment. As for measures to combat trade uncertainties, the government is planning to hold meetings with both the economic and foreign affairs ministers and will provide various tax benefits for SMEs. The government will also support the enactment of the Special Semiconductor Act and set up a national AI computing center as part of its efforts to make Korea one of the top 3 leading countries in the global AI industry in order to maintain industrial competitiveness. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
And the new year comes with a new set of measures that should make people's livelihoods better and also more fruitful. Our Lee Soo-jin tells us more.
It's the new year, which means new policies. And the ones going to effect in 2025 aim to further improve people's daily lives. To tackle the nation's demographic challenges, the government is implementing several new childcare policies. Starting January 1st, the maximum monthly pay for childcare leave will go up from 1.5 million won, or around $1,020, to 2.5 million won. This means that for the first 3 months of leave, parents will receive 100% of their salary, capped at a maximum of around 2.5 million won, 2 million won from the 4th to the 6th month, and then 1.6 million after the 6th month, which amounts to 23.1 million, or nearly $16,000 per year at the current exchange rate. The government is also expanding childcare leave to go into effect starting February 23rd from the current 1 year to a maximum of a year and a half.
We asked people what they needed the most, and the most common answers that we received were increased childcare leave pay and extended leave periods, which is why we have expanded these policies.
And to decrease the burden felt by companies that need to hire replacement workers, the government is also increasing the subsidy cap to 1.2 million won from the current 800,000 won per month. South Korea is also entering the era of the 10,000 won minimum hourly wage starting January 1st, with it being set at 10,030 Korean won, or $6,081. This is an increase of 1.7% from 2024's minimum hourly wage of 9,861. For someone who works 40 hours a week, this brings the monthly minimum pay to around 2.09 million won.
So to that regard, the minimum wage is the minimum level to support the consumers' purchasing power. That is clearly beneficial to the industry and the manufacturing firms and the economy. As long as minimum wage is increased, it is much better for the economy.
And on the industrial front, businesses are on the receiving end of support measures in the new year. During the first half of the year, the government will cover 70% of the rental costs for serving robots and kiosks. For all those models provided to be ones designed to accommodate the elderly and the disabled. 이수진, Arirang News.
Industrial output slowed for the third month in a row in November as a tangible proof of the prolonged stagnation. Our correspondent Moon Hae-ryun explains.
South Korea's industrial production fell for the third consecutive month in November, underscoring persistent weakness in the construction sector. Data released by Statistics Korea on Monday show that industrial output fell by 0.4% compared to the previous month. The decrease was primarily attributed to a decline in manufacturing production caused by labor disputes in the auto industry, something that also contributed to a shortfall in auto exports last month. This meant that manufacturing output overall dropped by 0.7%, despite a near 4% increase in semiconductor production. Services output fell by 0.2% due to declines in finance and insurance. The construction sector also saw a decline in production for the seventh straight month as building activity slowed, setting a new record for the longest continuous decline since data collection began in 1997. Meanwhile, retail sales, a key gauge of consumer spending, rebounded by 0.4% after seeing drops in September and October. This comes due to a rise in the consumption of semi-durable goods such as clothing, offsetting declines in purchases of durable and non-durable goods. Despite the slight rebound in retail sales, indicators reflecting current economic indicators failed to recover.
All component indicators except for the number of employed persons and amount in imports decrease, causing the constant composite index to fall by 0.5 points month on month, while the leading composite index rose by 0.1 points.
The coincident composite index, which reflects current economic conditions, continued its downward trend for the ninth consecutive month, indicating a challenging economic situation at present. However, the leading composite index, which forecasts future economic conditions, showed a slight increase, suggesting a potential for improvement in the future. In light of this latest data, the Ministry of Economy and Finance remarked that the government plans to mobilize all available resources to strengthen domestic demand and stabilize the economy next year. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
South Korea's exports set a new annual record last year on strong semiconductor shipments. The country managed to reach 6th in the global export rankings, up 2 spots after beating Italy and France. South Korea brought home nearly $684 billion from its outbound shipments in 2024. It took just 2 years to break its record of $683.6 billion in 2022. Again, the backbone of South Korea's exports, chip exports, played a huge role in achieving the milestone and jumping almost 44% year-on-year to nearly $142 billion. Now, such a solid performance from semiconductors was driven by strong demand for premium products like high bandwidth memory chips. Now, that wasn't all. Overseas shipments of cosmetics hit $10 billion thanks to the popularity of K-beauty. But with the incoming Trump administration and its expected tariffs and strong protectionism, experts see vast changes and hurdles in the new year. The South Korean government aims to increase efforts from diversifying export markets to trade negotiations with the U.S. so that Korean exports remain robust in 2025. And for those K-culture fans out there, 2025 will be another fruitful one on the culture front. Just to name a few, the return of BTS in One Shape, and of course, Season 3 of Squid Game. Our Song Yu-jin tells us more.
If you're curious about some of the K-culture events and content coming up this year, this is your guide. Starting with K-pop, several big names will be back in the spotlight. The long wait for BTS fans is almost over.
With all members set to complete their military service by June, I think BTS-related topics will once again be heavily in the spotlight this year.
And Blackpink is ready to be in your area once again. YG Entertainment's chief producer Yang Hyun-seok confirmed last July that new music and a world tour are on the way. Meanwhile, a new generation of stars is ready to shine. 3 of the big 4 K-pop agencies, JYP, SM, and YG, are planning to debut new groups this year. JYP will kick things off with the debut of its 7-member boy group Kpop this month. SM is gearing up to introduce its first girl group in 5 years following aespa, while YG will also unveil its new group, which chief producer Yang calls the next monster. Turning to cinema, 2 of Korea's most celebrated directors are making their much-anticipated returns.
Bong Joon-ho's Mickey 17, which explores the world of cloned humans, and Park Chan-wook's latest film, No Other Choice, are in the lineup. There's excitement about how these works from master directors will shape and inspire new cultural trends.
Bong's sci-fi film Mickey 17, starring Robert Pattinson and Steven Yeun, will hit North American theaters on March 7th with its Korean release earlier that month. Meanwhile, Park's new thriller No Other Choice, featuring Lee Byung-hun and Son Ye-jin, is keeping its release date under wraps. Streaming platforms are also ready for some major releases. Squid Game fans won't have to wait long for the next installment. Following the recent release of Season 2, the Netflix original will conclude with its 3rd and final season as early as this summer.
I shot the Season 2 and 3 at the same time, continuously. So I'm now working on the post of Season 3. It's almost done. We're working on the music and CGI right now.
The streaming giant is also bringing back another favorite. Its 2024 hit Culinary Class Wars will return with a 2nd season in the latter half of the year, promising more intense and thrilling cooking competitions. From music to film and streaming, that was your 2025 Culture Preview. 송유진, Arirang News.
And 2025 is the year of the blue snake. Our uni tells us what this means and shares New Year's wishes from people around the world.
As we step into 2025, South Korea is embracing the energy of a new lunar year, one that carries the mystique of the blue snake. But as the calendar turns, it's not just the animals of the zodiac that are shifting. It's also the hopes and dreams of the people. From bold aspirations to heartfelt wishes, let's take a look at what people here in South Korea are wishing for in this year of transformation.
I haven't been here for 10 years, so I'm just getting back. So it makes me want to come to Korea more.
My New Year's wish is to eat a lot of tteokbokki. Wow.
Okay.
This year felt really boring, but by the end, I met a beautiful girlfriend. I hope we stay happy together for a long time.
I have 2 sons, and my New Year's wish is for them to live a healthy and happy life.
은호야, 지호야, 더 건강해라. 네.
The year 2025 is represented by the snake. Each year is represented by one of the 12 animals of the zodiac, meaning those born in the year of the snake, 12 years apart, share the same zodiac sign. For many, wishes and aspirations for the coming year are similar.
Next year, I'll be 73 and born in the year of the snake. I don't have any special wishes. Just staying healthy is all I hope for.
Over a 60-year cycle, each zodiac animal appears 5 times, each time with a different color. With 2025 marking the year of the blue snake, the National Folk Museum of Korea is holding a special exhibition that explores the symbolism and ancient customs surrounding the snake, an animal seen as both a symbol of wisdom and a sacred yet fearsome force. Ancient artifacts and tools adorned with snake shapes or patterns provide a glimpse into the symbolic meaning of snakes in past cultures. Often seen as a frightening creature, snakes were believed to be driven away by scented pendants filled with musk or by fire holders. In other times, snakes were used in traditional medicine and as a health tonic as promoted in old advertisements. Also, snakes were often seen as symbols of evil or punishment, like Medusa in Greek mythology, where the snakes in her hair represented a number of things, including evil, punishment, and power. This year, the museum expanded its focus to the cultural heritage of other countries, showcasing artifacts like a snake guardian deity curving from the Baga people of Guinea, along with other ritualistic items. The exhibition highlights how snakes were symbolized and used in various ancient cultures. While 2025 is the year of the snake, the fortune for every zodiac sign is bright. May the coming year bring smooth paths and fulfillment to everyone. Wishing you a wonderful and prosperous year ahead. 이은희, Arirang News.
That's all we have for this weekend. We thank you for watching Weekly News Highlights. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.